Welcome to Conversations, a podcast provided by the Center for Thriving Leaders and sponsored by Grace Theological Seminary. I'm Dr. Trent Lambert, and we are here to help leaders thrive in ministry. Let's jump into the conversation for today. Welcome to Conversations, a podcast provided by the Center for Thriving Leaders and sponsored by Grace Theological Seminary. I'm Dr. Trent Lambert, and we are here to help leaders thrive in ministry. So let's jump right into our conversation for today. Today, I've got a very special guest in our Grace Seminary podcast room, and today I have the legendary Coach Bart Curtis from Warsaw High School. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you so much, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And boy, with an introduction like that, I ought to make more appearances. But
well, the NFL
is a bit much. So.
The NFL should be listening right now, right?
Yeah. Okay. No, it's an honor and a privilege to be asked to do this, and looking forward to it.
Thanks for taking time in your busy schedule, Coach. Listeners, let me tell you just a little bit about Coach Curtis. He's been coaching football for 39 seasons, 33 of those being head coach since 2018. Bart has coached the Warsaw Community High School football team. He has received his bachelor's degree from Bethel. Can we say that here at Grace College? But I guess we'll take that.
Yeah. I thought when I came on campus,
Yeah.
Okay, I think it let me through.
The rival.
Yeah.
So his bachelor's is from Bethel in physical education, and his master's is in education administration. He's taught physical education, strength and conditioning for 14 years and has been a high school administrator for 20 years. And in 2016, Bart was inducted into the Indiana Football Hall of Fame. Again, Coach, welcome. And Coach, I see here the most important thing, in my opinion, of all of our bios is married to his wife, Sarah, for 33 and a half years. And together they have 3 children, Michael and his wife, Maggie, with their first granddaughter expected in July, and Hannah and Brian.
Right. And Hannah will be getting married May 17th.
May 17th. Yeah. Our prayers will be with you, Coach. I'm in the same boat. Coming here shortly, I presume. Well, Coach, again, thank you so much for coming today. I know you've got a very busy schedule in launching into the new year, and so we certainly thank you for coming. One of the first things, Coach, we in this podcast get to talk to a lot of different pastors and ministry leaders. They're dealing with leadership dynamics, and they're also dealing with something that is the same no matter where you go, people. And so as a coach, as an administrator, we value your opinions and insights today on leadership and just simply dealing with people. So first of all, let's start with, tell us, how'd you get interested in the game of football?
Well, I always had a passion as a younger child and kid for sports, and enjoyed watching, participating. It's kind of a unique story. My story's probably a little different than most. I thought I played football in junior high school, 7th and 8th grade, and then thought that I might be the next Larry Bird of our town, and really put all my energy and focus into that, into playing basketball, and thinking, okay, this is more is better, and boy, this is what I'm going to do. And then a funny thing happened. Of course, when you grow up in Napanee and you're over 6 foot, at least 40 years ago, you automatically are a candidate to possibly make the basketball team. Yes.
Yeah.
So now, as a freshman and a sophomore, I grew tall, but I was very slight in build. I was probably, as a sophomore, 6'2", 135 pounds. And so it really wasn't. And then, through nature and got into some weightlifting and grew quite a bit width-wise versus height-wise. And I remember clearly my junior year, a guy you may or may not know who was a quarterback of our team, Mark Alfano, said, hey, you need to, we're up playing catch at the dune. We're up at the dunes at the after prom. and got a game of football going up there at the beach, and he and several of my friends said, "Look, you've got to do this your senior year." And so with some coercion and, something I always wanted to do because they were good, and it was something that was, I thought, hey, why not? And went to the call-out meeting, was fortunate enough that they donned a uniform for me, and then was able to have some really nice moments as a senior 44 years ago. And then that kind of just took off from there. I was fortunate enough to play 3 years of college football at Manchester College, and then that kind of led into my coaching beginning in 1985. So yeah, it's a little different path traveled
through basketball.
Yeah, through friends.
Yeah,
through, I don't want to say peer pressure, but yeah, peer pressure. It was kind of positive peer pressure, and every time I'm with Mark, who lives up north, not too far from where I live, north of Warsaw. He actually coached with me for 2 years here.
Okay.
At Warsaw, my first 2 years, but he. We'll always bring that story up anytime we go out to eat or visiting or whatever. And, literally, if he and his family had not applied that positive, hey, you really need to do this, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
My background with football is my grandfather played when there was leather helmets, and then my dad played. My dad was a football coach, so I grew up in the locker room. If your last name was Lambert, you did not have a choice.
Right.
You played football.
Sure.
So it was fun growing up in the locker room with my dad. Coach, by the way, listeners, I want to encourage all of you this upcoming football season to come out and check out the Warsaw Tigers. As a fan, I watched the games and just so impressed with the Warsaw Tiger program and Coach Curtis and his staff. Just a treat to watch. Coach, there's so many things we could talk about in the area of football. But what are some of the highlights from you on your coaching career?
Well, before we go on, okay, I think you are underscoring your role within our program. Listeners may not know that you are also one of our coaches in our feeder program and do a great job with our young people, not only at camps, but at the junior high level over Lakeview, and that's appreciated.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Highlights, when you're in this thing long enough, which I've been, fortunately, a lot of good things are going to happen, and there's going to be some bad things that happen. And that was kind of my led to my topic, making an impact. I believe that positive, persistent consistency can win over the long haul over talent. And I think, that's one of the things I'm probably most proud of is that we have been able to be consistently good and occasionally great. And oftentimes when we line up, we don't do a whole lot, as you know. Well, I think our kids play hard, but we try to instill in them that, the tortoise and the hare. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you do things well enough, often enough, and you are persistent beyond reproach in your attack of anything. It doesn't have to be just football, but anything that you do, it's so easy to get discouraged. I will tell you this, Trent. In 1993, I had my letter of resignation. I'd been a head coach 3 years, and I had my letter of resignation typed up, ready to give to my athletic director because I was convinced that I was the wrong guy for that job, and that surely I had chosen the wrong profession and had surely we should probably get into something else. So like my first few years as a head coach running my own program, I was not, I won the conference our first year and then did okay the second year. Third year was really, really rough. And I think we ended up like 2-7. I don't know if you've ever been 2-7. It's not a lot of fun.
Not a fun position.
And, through the wisdom of some good friends and my wife in particular, I was able to work through that. I didn't resign, obviously, stayed the course, didn't get discouraged. Well, I was discouraged, but I was able to latch on to some mentors that were able to kind of pull me through this in coaching and provided a lot of feedback. And, when you start out and things go well for you all at once, it's easy to think, hey, I've got this figured out. You know what I mean? This is, boy, this coaching stuff's easy. That's not the case at all. And I found that out in a hard way and really had to look at myself, look at how we did things, and really open myself up to grow. So I think, persistency and I think consistency over the last 3.5 decades almost as a head coach is really what I'm the most proud of. I've been fortunate enough to hold up some trophies, been fortunate enough to be involved with some great coaches, some great schools, and some great players and parents that allowed us to do that, that we're able to catch our vision and have the same mindset and the same philosophy and be able to make those things happen along the course of the way. We've been very, very fortunate.
Coach, we have some more things that we're going to talk about, but I have to just parenthetically assert right now for our listeners, if you don't catch anything else in this podcast today, I hope you caught what Coach just said about persistency. And right now, for those of you who may be contemplating quitting, as a pastor for nearly 25 years, every Monday morning I think I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And so I want to encourage our listeners, stay in the game, do what God has called you to do, get around some good people, some good mentors, get some encouragement, get up the next morning on Tuesday and go back to work and pastor those people. So the Center for Thriving Leaders is here to help you. If we can encourage you in any way and help in any areas of mentorship, please let us know. Great word, Coach. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And echoing what you said, you're really one day, you don't know. You're one day away from breaking through, or 1 week away from breaking through.
Well said.
And you just, letting that voice inside of you that's the wrong voice take precedence over that and getting downtrodden, whether you've been relieved, when you're in coaching and I'm sure in ministry and any other thing, there's that worry that, okay, am I doing a good enough job? Am I going to, are they going to fire me?
Right.
Coaches are hired to be fired.
Right.
There are two types, those that have been fired and those that are going to be,
Yep.
And I think when I quit worrying about the things that didn't matter like that and worrying about what other people thought and focusing my energy and efforts on the right path, things got a lot better for us.
That's a wrap. I think we're done for the day. What a great word. I hope you're catching all of that. And Jeremiah says it like this. God spoke to Jeremiah and said, if the sun comes up in the morning, be encouraged. I have a plan for you. So the sun's going to come up the next day. Stay diligent, stay persistent, and hang in there. Great word of encouragement today, Coach. Thank you. Coach, I want to transition just a little bit now. How important is faith to you in your life and career?
Well, it drives, obviously, everybody sitting here on Grace's campus and having the opportunity to express that is, as I said, an honor. How I try and look at things and be led, I try to make that the driving force. Every decision I make, whether it be in school or on the field or at home, and I certainly don't do as good a job of it as I'd like to do. But I try to keep in mind, how is this going to affect those around me? What I profess to be as my faith. Is this going to be something that leads someone in the right direction or the wrong direction by my actions or my words? Mm-hmm. So I'm not as good at that as I'd like to be. And what I mean by that is, there's some times if I get frustrated, which we all do, and I let something out that should not be coming out of my mouth. I'll try and stop and drop and do 10 push-ups or whatever, like I would have the kids do. So, I think that when you're in a position like you're in or like I'm in where there's a lot of eyes on you, I really think it's got to be a diligent, thought-provoking, prayerful, daily attitude that you take. And, I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I sat here and said that, I don't struggle with that on a day-to-day basis. But when I am in prayer, when I am in meditation and asking for the proper words or the proper thoughts or the proper actions in a tough time, one of the things I always tell our kids before they go out and play is make sure that everything we do, say, and think tonight on the field honors God. And to me, that sums it up.
Excellent.
Am I doing that on a daily basis? Not as well as I'd like. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I do that, but those are the last three things we tell the kids, and that we love them.
Tremendous word, and I think all of us listening and hearing the podcast can attest. We all have our moments where we kick the dog and repent and get things right again. But as you said, being intentional as leaders. As Paul said, some things are permissible, but it's just not always the right thing to do as a leader because we do model. Coach, what does leadership, and as a football coach, as a school administrator, everything falls and rises upon leadership. And I think in our country and even in our churches in America today, there is a void and lack of true leadership. And so what does leadership look like and mean to you?
Well, I think it is vision, number one. I think that if the vision you have is going to lead people in the right direction and they can catch fire with your vision, and it's a positive vision and there's proof in it, I think that helps spread the positive vision and really hones your leadership skills. I'm fortunate enough, and I'm sure you are too, to be married to a great God-fearing Christian woman, my wife Sarah, for 3.5 years. And one of the things back on point number 3, she keeps me in check really well on items where I oftentimes fall short. But leadership, to me, means are your actions, are your drive, and are your vision being caught by people? Can you get people to do what normally they wouldn't want to do? And I think that's coaching 101. That's really what it comes down to. Tom Landry always said that's coaching is getting people to do things that are good for them that they normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And they don't know it.
Yeah.
And I think that's coaching, that's leadership. And I think as a dad, you're a dad. I'm a dad. My kids are in their 30s and 20s now. I hope that I provided that for them when they were, in their teens and younger. But being a good leader takes work, and I think it takes the word that keeps coming back, persistency and consistency.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't do that, if you're one guy one day and another guy the next, people aren't going to follow you.
Doesn't work. Coach, you mentioned Tom Landry. This is kind of going off script. What are some leaders that you have followed or maybe adhered to that you really liked, listened to, and became part of your mantra?
Well, I've been blessed to have a lot of good, positive people in my life, coaching mentors. My first coaching mentor was a guy named Scott Bovenkirk, who hired me in South Bend, Washington in 1986, and he kind of taught me how to coach and run a program by letting me do my thing on my side of the ball and then reinforcing when I would fall short. And so that's one aspect of doing it. Obviously, growing up in the coaching profession or in my 20s, picking out guys that were successful not only on the field, but also in their lives. I look at, as you mentioned, Tom Landry would be one that, as stoic as he was, his actions always were the same.
Mm.
You know what I mean? He was consistent.
Correct.
He was persistent, and he obviously had a lot of success. I think you look at today's coaches, Nick Saban, say what you want about him. What he's done in 17 years at the University of Alabama. And before that, not a lot of people remember that it didn't go well for him at Michigan State.
Right.
It didn't go real well for him at the Miami Dolphins. But, he broke through, tore down the building, not literally, but, there's a remodel job and there's a tear down and a rebuild.
Correct.
He did a tear down and a rebuild at Alabama. And, I don't think that oftentimes if you look at that program and how it's developed, that he gets the credit that he deserves.
Coach, right now we've got pastors and ministry leaders listening to us, and they're trying to lead their ministries, lead their organizations. How do you, and you mentioned it here just a little bit, and maybe you can reiterate some of those things, but how do you model and teach leadership to your staff, to the people that you lead, and also your football teams?
Well, I think, first of all, you got to be, number one, everything stops and starts with you. And if you're not well, if things don't go well, it's my fault. If things go well, it's our deal. Okay, you did it. And I think that's very important to give praise, encouragement, and credit for the people that work with you and for you when things do go well. And when things don't go well, to harbor the blame. We have a saying, you've been in our coach's office out there, there's a big painting on the wall that says, what you see on film is what you're coaching. And I think if you don't mask that and you don't make excuses and you don't blame kids and you take the blame for everything that goes wrong, I think that gets respect and more people are more likely to follow you versus if you just always pass a buck or always have an excuse why something didn't work. But I don't do a great job of this on a daily basis. I certainly try to. But I think my actions, the head coach or the head of anything has to set the tempo and the vision for that organization.
Pastors and leaders that are listening right now, I hope you caught what Coach just said, that it stops with us. For years, Coach, I would go to pastors' conferences, and traditionally, and again, for our listeners, I'm just saying traditionally, you would go to a pastor's conference, and pastors would get together and just talk about the hardships of their people in the churches they pastored. And so my whole thing is if you're having some difficulties with your people, look at yourself first, because you reproduce what you are. And so if you're having some difficult situations, look at ourselves, because truly we reproduce in our churches who we are. So very well said.
Very, very true.
So let's just talk about now maybe with your coaching staff. How do you kind of work with leadership with them? What's kind of your process and your particular flavor of leadership with them?
Number one, hire guys that are a lot smarter than me.
Amen.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Find out, and then try to, you've heard that song, accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an old song like that. I'm not going to sing it for you. Okay. That would turn.
That's another podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
But find, when Keith Kinder, who took over for me in Mishawaka, when I left Mishawaka and came to Warsaw, he'd been on my staff the whole time. And, he would say, what do I need to do? What do I not need to do? I said, Keith, just remember this. Head coaching is nothing more than the management of adult personalities.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So when you have the kids are never an issue. Okay. They will, for the most part, 95% of the time, do what you need them to do, as long as as long as you can produce some results that aid them at the end. Adults, I think that everybody has a unique personality, a unique skill set. Everybody has an ego, some big, some small, some in between. And I think managing those, whether it be assistant coaches, people you deal with in the school, parents of your players, media, the community, I think it's important that you understand that. And you can't put everybody into one little pigeonhole. And, fair isn't always the same, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Johnson used to say when he was with the Cowboys, he cut a guy once that fell asleep in a meeting. And somebody asked him about it and said, well, what if that had been Troy Aikman? He said, I'd have gone over, gently shook him and said, hey, go home and get some rest. Okay? Because Troy Aikman was there from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. studying film, where the guy that he cut for falling asleep in a meeting hadn't done all those things.
Didn't put in that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really believe that if you can, like we talked about, get people to see your vision, follow your vision, give them the tools to be successful, and then turn them loose and let them do it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you that, here in the seminary and the Center for Thriving Leaders, I'm always looking for people smarter than me because they make me better.
Yes.
And Coach, I think in leadership and also in the pastoral area, sometimes there's an intimidation. If someone is smarter than me, am I going to lose my position? And I think leaders, ministry leaders, you have to be secure in who you are. What you bring to the table, you are who you are. You have your set skills and abilities, and you have to be secure in that. Too often I see leaders that just aren't secure in themselves and become just a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And you begin to see that. So one thing I think for sure for leadership is be secure in who you are and get great people around you that are better than you in areas.
You can't please everybody.
Can't please everybody.
You're never gonna, and you can't save everybody.
Very true. Very true. Football is, of course, Coach, a team sport. How do you build, and you mentioned this a little bit, a culture of team leadership in your staff and players? Right now I'm teaching a course here starting next week on team leadership at the master's level, and so I'll be dealing with some of the things. So I'm going to be recording some notes from Coach Curtis here for my class.
Well, we've tried some different things. And once again, I think it goes back to your process. Your daily process is what hones the whole thing, in my opinion. That builds your culture. Culture is a big buzzword now. And it really isn't who you think you are. It's who others think you are.
Well said.
Okay. I believe that, we do this well. Okay. Well, Penn might feel different about us, or Carol might feel different about us. If I want to know who we are, I go talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Be honest with me. I am opening myself up. Tell me where we're strong. Tell me where we're weak. And coaches are pretty good about that, particularly if, you've built up relationships. We've done some leadership units before. We try to give our kids opportunities to get out into the community and do service. I think that our kids are number one when it comes to, hey, there's an old lady that's moving from here to here, and boy, we need, it's going to happen Friday, and here it is Wednesday. We almost never say no unless it's, impossible. We will drop what we're doing and help out in the community. And I think that goes a long way in building your culture. How you handle crises, I think, is huge. It's easy to be a great teammate, or it's easy to have a happy staff room when things are going well. So who can you live with when things aren't going well? Who can you coach with when things aren't going well? You've been married 30 years. I've been married 33 and a half. Every day hasn't been
no, sir.
Peachy, probably for her, I can guarantee, and for me probably at sometimes. But we persist, we figure it out, and together we have built a culture at our home that I think is consistent and loving.
Listeners, again, I hope you're getting some of these nuggets that are coming from Coach. And one that I want to capture that he just said is, in your organization, who can you live with and continue to function with when things are not going well?
It's huge.
That is huge.
It is.
When the heat is on, emotions are high, things are not going well, who is still in that room with you following that vision?
Yeah, the foxhole mentality.
The foxhole mentality. And I always say, if you haven't been in a good fight, I'm not sure if I want to hang out with you. Right. I want someone who's battle-tested, right?
Absolutely. Well, you were privy to our season this year.
Yeah.
With the injuries, particularly early, of some key personnel.
Yeah.
And you probably saw a lot of our games, and we were very fortunate, and I think that our togetherness was what was able to pull us through. And our staff never panicked. You know what I mean? They never flinched. And we could have easily been 3-7 or 4-6. And we acted through those hard times and were able to put together a really nice season. And so I think that's Exhibit A right there.
Ministry leaders, if you're following along with this conversation with Coach Bart Curtis, head football coach of Warsaw High School, I hope you are getting some of these items we're discussing in the area of building a team. Build a team that's going to be with you through the thick and thin. And so I really encourage you, as you launch into 2024, building vision, make sure you get that team around you that holds that vision, who's going to stay there through thick and thin, and you can lean upon. Great encouragement today, Coach. Coach, in our last few moments here together, I want to transition just a little bit.
Okay.
Here at Grace College and Seminary, I'm going to be doing a study later this year on Generation Z. And this is a unique generation. You and I's generation and millennials have their own uniqueness. But when we get to Z's and younger, we're seeing some shifts and dynamics that I really want to get a better handle on. And so what are some changes, Coach, from coaching football, from being a teacher, from being an administrator? What are you seeing in current teenage culture?
Immediate gratification, immediate response, immediate impulse. How can those be controlled and manufactured and twisted for the good? I think is a huge thing. You know, the old days, I am certain that there was never a coach that you played for that came to you and asked your opinion on anything.
Never.
Me neither. Okay, and I'm not suggesting that that's how you do things, but it's almost like you got to be almost like a magician and trick kids sometimes into thinking it's their idea. You know what I mean? When in general, you put some things out on the table that, hey, what do you think about morning workouts versus evening workouts? I'll just have conversations with kids to try to build a relationship, not that is going to change how we operate, but just little things that make them feel a part, like they're part of the decision-making. And I think if you do that, you've got a better grasp on this Gen Z. So, like, I'll ask our kids on Thursday night, what color pants we're wearing tomorrow night? Black. Okay. Are we dressing up or are we wearing game jerseys? We're dressing up. So those are two things that, okay, I don't care either way, whether we wear orange pants.
So they have some buy-in.
Yeah, it is theirs.
Yeah.
And I think dealing with the generation that we're in right now, if you understand that they're not going to pay attention to you if you don't have anything important that's going to help them within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You got 2 minutes, maybe 3. And if it doesn't look like it's something that is going to benefit them or interest them, you've lost them.
So true. Coach, something that I've seen in ministry and also whether it's coaching, business leadership, whatever, you made a comment back when I played football. If a coach said, do it, you just did it, right?
Yes.
And I think there was a different approach to authority, submission to authority. Whether it was a football coach, a teacher. I didn't know my teachers in high school had a first name until I was in college, right? Because you submitted to authority without question. Whether there were some different dynamics, bad things that happened over the years in leadership, culture shift, whatever, today's teenagers just don't follow authority like that. You have to earn it. We've seen that with millennials too, that they're just not going to, yes, sir, unless it's earned. So I think that goes back to the issue of modeling leadership. We model leadership and we earn the respect of our authority.
I agree with you.
What are some last words that you may give to some ministry leaders? You know, right now, Coach, we're starting 2024. In ministry and pastoral realms, they're getting their quote-unquote teams motivated. They're getting their people motivated. They've got a vision for the year. So what are some last maybe comments to these leaders, to their teams, about motivating their teams for 2024?
You know, I think the most important thing is take that first step and do it. You know, I'm married to a woman that has it figured out. She has a way of taking care of things that she likes to do the least first.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
And now some of the things she doesn't like to do as much don't look that daunting. So, you know, I think that's important as we start a new year and everybody has new ideas, new resolutions, whatever. Take that first step. I think if you've, and take baby steps. You know, I think that's important. We feel like it's important to chart everything, you know, in the weight room. And I keep going back to the school thing, but leadership-wise, if you can just take that first step, have some small successes, take that next step, have some small successes. Don't measure yourself against anybody else. I think that comparison is the thief of joy.
Well said.
You know what I'm saying?
Well said.
It really is. If I looked at what I do on a daily basis, and you know, and here's something else on that last part. The reason kids are like this is because all they do all day long is compare themselves to everybody they see on their social media sites. I mean, it's, you know, so why wouldn't you? And it's easy to do because you say, okay, well, boy, this guy must know what he's talking about because, you know, he posted this, or boy, look what this program's doing. And, excuse me, when you start comparing yourself to others instead of taking care of your own business and doing it the best that you possibly can. You know, a wise man once told me, prepare for your next job at the job you're at. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
Don't worry about tomorrow. Take care of today. And, you know, every day you're interviewing for that job you don't even know that's out there.
My wife has a saying, Coach, that every interaction, whether you're at Walmart, whether you're at Warsaw High School, Seminary, is an interview. What impact
100%.
What impact are you leaving on another person? For sure. Coach, as we can wrap up today, again, what a pleasure to have you in the studio. But before we leave, we got to talk just a minute of football.
Okay.
How we looking, Coach, for 2024 Warsaw Tigers?
We're going to be okay. We'll figure some things out. And, you know, we lost a really good, strong class, as you know. We've got a good junior class that'll be seniors next year coming back that I think many of those kids embody what we're talking about very much today. And there's some good groups behind them. I think the competition's going to be fierce. I really do. And, you know, that's something else. Don't ever think you got it made. You know, when
Amen to
always be in the remodeling stage, always be willing to
put in the work,
fight for that inch or that yard, and fight for that position that you have. And as we head into a new season, our kids understand that. Well, maybe you're a 2-year starter. You got to back it up now,
right?
And you know, just I'm an optimist between December and May. I'm a realist in June and July. I'm a pessimist in August through November. Okay, so right now you caught me at a good time. I'm feeling good about things. The grades all came back. Kids look, you know, we're in good shape.
Coach is smiling in the podcast
so
room today.
I'm excited about this group.
Coach, we're going to be praying for you. We're behind you here in our community and excited to see what the Tigers do in 2024. We're looking for that kickoff in fall.
Thank you very much, and it's been a blessing and an honor.
Thank you, Coach. This is Dr. Lambert with the Center for Thriving Leaders and Grace Theological Seminary, challenging you to keep thriving in ministry. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. This is Dr. Trent Lambert with the Center for Thriving Leaders and Grace Theological Seminary, challenging you to keep thriving in ministry. Thanks for joining us today.